Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Mailbag, the all-mailbag installment here at AMC Movie News, where all we do is take your mailbag questions. My name is John Campea. I'm the editor-in-chief of AMC Movie News. And you know, Monday through Friday on AMC Movie Talk, we take a little bit of time, take a couple of your mailbag questions. And by the way, if you have mailbag questions you want to send in to us, you can email us anytime at amcmovietalk@gmail.com. Now, every day we pull a couple questions from the mailbag for AMC Movie Talk, and then here on the weekends, all we do is take your mailbag questions. So it's a Sunday. The World Cup is going on. I think this is going to be the last show that you're going to see me with the name John Campea. Some of you may not know this. My real name is actually Giovanni Campea. I'm Italian. And from now until the end of Italy's run in the World Cup, Forza Italia, I'm going to be wearing the Italian flag. My name is going to be Giovanni Campea. So I forgot to change it today. But so for today, I'm John Campea, Forza Italia. So with that being said, let's get into it. Let's not waste any time. It's time for mailbag. Let's get to our first question of the day. And the first question today comes to us from Daniel Glecier, who writes, "Hey guys, love the show and keep up the great work." Thank you so much, Daniel. "I am a big fan of the film Starsky and Hutch, and I think it's hilarious. Do you guys think that it's possible we could see a sequel since they've done it with Dumb and Dumber and Anchorman 2? Keep up the great work and bring on the filthy." Well, thanks a lot for the question, Daniel. And you know what? I'm going to look this up here for a second. Starsky and Hutch box office. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so Starsky and Hutch was like 10 years ago now. Goodness gracious, 10 years ago. And it actually did all right. It made like somewhere around 170 million worldwide. About, if I look at the numbers specifically, $88 million domestically, about $170 million worldwide. It made money. But, and you're right to bring up the comparisons. You know, Dumb and Dumber 2 was an old film. I mean, like 20 years old, and they're making the sequel now. Anchorman was an older film that they did a sequel in a modern context. So, I mean, that's happened. So why not Starsky and Hutch? I'm going to go out on a limb and say this, though, with Starsky and Hutch, is that I completely appreciate that you love the film, and that's great. The most wonderful, amazing thing about film is the pure subjectivity of it. No matter how much somebody hates a movie, there are other people who love it. No matter how much you love a movie, there are other people who hate it. But generally speaking, Starsky and Hutch wasn't like a real well-received movie. It got less than 50% of the audience gave it a favorable review. I think it's like 49%. And critics didn't hate it. It got a 63% from critics who didn't hate it, but that's at the same time, that's not great. You know, and Starsky and Hutch just doesn't have a large group of people that remember it fondly. And then look, I'm a big fan of Zoolander. And, you know, one of the things that got me so excited about Starsky and Hutch is, you know, you start combining Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson together. That's your team. But, it didn't work for me. Snoop Dogg was pretty funny in it. But, you know, while you have a real big passion and love for it, and that's awesome, I think it's fair to say that there's not a lot of people that share your enthusiasm for it, unlike the original Dumb and Dumber and unlike the original Anchorman. And so even though Starsky and Hutch did not bat at the box office, I don't think there'd be a big audience to see another one. So I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say that I don't think the chances are very good. I'll go as far as to say 1%. 1%. So you're saying there's a chance. Well, never say never, but I really don't think Ben Stiller has any interest in doing it. I don't think Owen Wilson has any interest in doing it. I don't think the studio has any interest in doing it. And I don't think there's a real big audience that has an interest in seeing it. So love the fact that you love that film. Cherish it. Hopefully you've got it on home video, on DVD or something, so you can watch it anytime you want. But I don't think there's enough people out there that share your appreciation that would want to see another one. So anyway, thanks a lot for the question, man. And we're moving on to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Christian Zada. And Christian Zada writes, "Hi, AMC Movie Talk." Christian Zada writes, "Hi, AMC Movie Talk. I've been watching your show for about a year now and was wondering if you had a gun to your head and had to choose between Hugh Jackman reprising his role as Wolverine or Robert Downey Jr. returning as Iron Man, which one would you choose?" Well, goodness gracious me. Well, thankfully, we live in a world where we know we still got some more Wolverine coming out of Hugh Jackman. He's coming back for X-Men Apocalypse, and probably one more Wolverine film after that. We got Robert Downey Jr. coming back as Iron Man for Avengers 2, and probably one more film after that. So thankfully, we live in that world. But if you're asking me, if I had to choose, if I could only have one, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, I'm telling you, these two guys just are so epitomize and just so embody their characters. And they've both been doing their characters for a long time. Hugh Jackman longer. He's been doing Wolverine for like 15 years. Robert Downey Jr. has been Tony Stark now in 3, 4, 5 movies now. So, I mean, these two guys just epitomize, and they're both great, and they're both wonderful. I'm going to go with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. I don't really know if I still would have said that prior to X-Men Days of Future Past and how good he was in that movie, but I might have still. And the reason I'm going to go with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine over Robert Downey Jr., and that is no disrespect to the amazing job Robert Downey Jr. has done as Iron Man. But the reason I would probably go with Hugh Jackman, there are two particular reasons. One is that I just think Hugh Jackman is an overall better actor. I mean, this guy, he can play anything. He plays Jean Valjean, for heaven's sakes. He can be anything. You know, in the span of about a calendar year, you saw him in Les Mis and then in Prisoners. And he can be funny and witty, but dark and serious. And there's a lot. And Robert Downey Jr., make no mistake about it, is an excellent actor as well. Not just excellent as Tony Stark. He's an excellent actor. But I think Hugh Jackman overall just has more tools in his belt as an actor. He's just on that level. I believe he's a multiple Academy Award nominee. And he's going to get more. The second reason I would go with Hugh Jackman over Robert Downey Jr., and maybe this is a bit unfair, and I know some of you are going to get mad at me for saying this, and fine, whatever. But I'm being honest. I'm just being honest, and I could be wrong. But I got a little turned off in the whole Robert Downey Jr. contract kerfuffle that he's had with Marvel after Avengers. Remember, they came close to having to replace him because he had more demands and stuff like that. And while none of us know the specifics, I do feel this way. Marvel saved Robert Downey Jr. Playing Tony Stark salvaged his career and made him an A-lister again. And the reason that Robert Downey Jr. is, sought after, world famous, beloved, and all that kind of stuff is because of Tony Stark. Now, a lot of people can make the argument too, fairly so, that one of the reasons we love Tony Stark is because of Robert Downey Jr. Absolutely. But remember, another actor might have been cast instead of him. And there are other actors up for that role who are great actors. And we might be thinking the same way about them right now as Tony Stark instead of Robert Downey Jr. We just don't know. I mean, you can say, no, nobody could do Tony Stark as well as Robert Downey Jr. Well, that's speaking from a position of ignorance because you don't know. You didn't see the other people play Tony Stark. That's not to take away how awesome Robert Downey Jr. has been. But, and like I said, I'm admitting up front, maybe this is unfair for me to say this, but I'm just being honest since you asked the question. I've been a little turned off by Robert Downey Jr. since that whole thing. Some reports say he got paid over $50 million when all was said and done. And whether those reports are accurate or not, I'm not 100% sure. I'm just saying those are the reports that I've read. And maybe they're wrong. But that's all I have to go on right now. But, a lot of reports reading that he's made 50, 60, maybe even more $1 million in Avengers. And yet he was demanding more. If the reports are to be believed. So let me put that big asterisk beside that statement that I'm making. But anyway, through that whole kerfuffle, I became a little turned off by Robert Downey Jr. I think at some point you go, you know what? You guys saved my life. You guys saved my career and gave me the prestige and the position that I have now. And so I'm going to work with you guys. If you guys want me back. Now, that doesn't mean he has to play Tony Stark forever. I mean, if he's just like Hugh Jackman is nearing the end of the line as Wolverine. If Robert Downey Jr. is thinking like, you know what, guys, I've loved playing this character, but it's time for me to move on from the character. That's totally cool. But when you're like, hey guys, the fans love me as this character, you're going to make a lot of fans mad if you don't pay me my money, if you don't pay me what I'm demanding you, if you don't respond to my hostage demands here, because basically that's what he did. He was holding Iron Man hostage. And he's using the fans as hostages, basically. So if you don't give me my money, then you're going to have a lot of angry people. Like, that's different. And maybe, like I said, I got to be careful here because maybe I'm not characterizing this accurately. Like, maybe it was a totally different situation. I am just going off of the situations that I've read, the reports that I've seen. And if those aren't right, then I take this all back. But that's all I've got to go on right now. So because of that impression that I have, because of that perception of the scenario, and I know everybody likes to be for their favorite celebrity and against the man. So everybody, it's amazing how people jump to Robert Downey Jr.'s defense in this, but whatever. If those reports are accurate, then it's turned me off a little bit. I'm still a huge fan of his. Cannot wait to see him as Tony Stark Iron Man in the next Iron Man. I'll be there cheering. Ann and I were actually walking with him down the red carpet at Iron Man 3. We didn't even realize we were walking with him. We're just like walking behind this guy, and he keeps stopping, and we didn't know why he kept stopping. Then we realized he's signing autographs. It's like, well, wait a minute, who's this? Is this dude in the movie? And then as he turned a little bit more his head, we realized, oh, we're standing right beside Robert Downey Jr. as he's signing autograph for the fans. And trust me, I can say I'm a little turned off all I want. I was fangasming at that point when I realized me and Ann were standing like, we're on the red carpet with Robert Downey Jr. right now. That was a fangasm moment for me. I am a huge Robert Downey Jr. fan. But if you're going to say, I can only choose either Hugh Jackman or I can only choose Robert Downey Jr. to come back in their respective roles, that's a tough one, man. And maybe there are very, very few other people I would pick over Robert Downey Jr. But in this scenario, especially coming off of X-Men Days of Future Past, I'm going to go with Hugh Jackman. So I'd be curious to know who would you guys take? Hugh Jackman, Robert Downey Jr., if you could only choose one. Remember, not choosing one doesn't mean you're not a fan of that guy too, because I'm a huge fan of both of these dudes. I love the work they've both done. Cannot wait to see the next X-Men. Cannot wait to see the next Avenger and what Hugh Jackman and Robert Downey Jr. bring to those movies. Totally excited. But like you said in your email, if you put a gun to my head and I can only choose one, for those reasons, I would probably go with a heavy heart. I would go with Hugh Jackman. All right, let's move on to the next topic today. And the next question today comes to us from Skaj Cere, who writes, hey, everyone. Hope you're having an awesome day. Thank you so much. I actually am having an awesome day. My question is, do you think we could see a post-credit scene in Episode 7? And would you want one? Well, it's a good question, and one that me and some other Star Wars fan friends of mine have talked about. Now, normally, no, you don't need a post-credit scene in the next Star Wars, in a Star Wars movie. Although in one of the prequels you had, at the end of the credits, you just heard the Darth Vader breathing. You know, the foreshadowing that we're going to see Darth Vader in the next film. Woo! And then, yeah, anyway. But now it makes sense because a new Star Wars film is coming out every 2 years. I mean, by the time Star Wars Episode 7 comes out, they're going to be working on Star Wars Episode 8. And they'll already be well into production of the first Star Wars spin-off movie that comes out in 2016. So it makes sense that they would be prepared for, and they already know what the next movie is, exactly it's scripted and already in production. It makes sense that they would have after-credit scenes. So I'm going to say yes. I do believe that the Star Wars films will have post-credit scenes, and I absolutely am looking forward to them. I'm a big sucker for post-credit scenes. I think they're a lot of fun. So, yes to both of your questions. I do believe there is going to be a post-credit scene, and I do want it. I am looking forward to it. All right, let's go on to the next question today. And the next question today comes to us from Stephen Anthony, who writes, hi, my name is Steve Anthony, fan of the show. Thank you so much, Steve. I watch every day. I wanted to ask, will we see a live-action Family Guy movie? Thanks, and keep up the good work. Well, thanks a lot for the question, Steve. We are going to see a Family Guy movie. Seth MacFarlane, who is coming off a pretty big bomb with A Million Ways to Die in the West. Not nearly as beloved as his last film that he's directed, Ted, nor nearly as financially successful. But Seth has already talked about how they've already got their plans for a Family Guy movie, and it's going to be a lot different. They're going to go a lot. It's going to be rated R. Of that, I have no doubt. He goes, because there's a lot of things we get to do in the movies that we can't do on TV. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm a fan of the Family Guy. The show's a little hit and miss for me, but I find that when it's on, when Family Guy is in its stride, I find it to be really, really funny. I can also find Seth MacFarlane to be a little preachy. And I don't like anybody that's preachy. Doesn't matter what they're preaching. I get turned off by preachy, and Seth MacFarlane can be a little preachy sometimes. But that aside, I think he's got one of the funniest minds in the business. I loved Ted. Loved it. Can't wait for the sequel. But could we get a live action Family Guy? I don't think so. I don't think Seth has any desire to do a live action Family Guy. I think bring it into a live action environment kind of kills some of the magic of Family Guy. Because no matter who you cast as Peter Griffin, that's not Peter Griffin. No matter, how you CG Stewie or Brian, that's not Stewie or Brian. I just don't think it's a way you go with it. And I don't think Seth MacFarlane has any plans for it. So I think Seth is going to make an animated Family Guy movie. I don't think he has any plans or desire or whatever to do it in a live action environment. And I'm glad he doesn't. I'm really glad he doesn't. If I'm going to go see a Family Guy movie, I want to see Family Guy. Not some weird rendition of Family Guy in a live action environment that just couldn't capture the same magic that when Family Guy works, the magic that it has. So, so that's my thoughts on that. Thanks a lot for the question. All right, moving on to the next question today. And the next question today comes to us from Alan Hanu. I hope I'm saying your name right, Alan. Forgive me if I'm not. And he writes, "Hey guys, love the show. Just a quick one. Do you think Ashton Kutcher will ever get back into a big role? Cheers." It's funny. I've been talking about Ashton Kutcher ever since back in the movie blog days. I've never understood the appeal of Ashton Kutcher as an actor. Now, don't get me wrong. I've seen a lot of stuff. I'm going to pull up something here. I've seen a lot of stuff with Ashton, behind the scenes stuff and things that he does. And he legitimately sounds like he'd be one of the coolest dudes in the world to hang out with. And he's done a lot of stuff as a producer. He's the guy who's really diversified himself and has his hands in a lot of things and does a lot of very cool stuff in Hollywood besides being on camera. That being said, I don't know that I've ever liked him in any role that he's done. I wasn't a fan of That 70s Show, so I really can't say much about his performance in that at all because I wasn't a fan of the show. He was terrible in Killers. I did not think he did a good job in Jobs at all, talking about recent films. No Strings Attached was a swing and a miss. Guess Who? Which is a modern take and a reversal roles of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. That was not bad, and he actually wasn't too bad in that. A lot of people like to point to Butterfly Effect as being one of his good ones. I honestly was not impressed with his performance in that. My Boss's Daughter, I didn't dig him in. Then you're getting back into Dude, Where's My Car? I've never seen it. I've never understood the appeal as an actor. As a personality, I think he's pretty great, actually. But as an actor, I've never seen the appeal. And the more he's done, Jobs was a bit of a failure. Do I think he'll be prominent? Could he still land one or two big leading roles? He could. But will he ever be a prominent A-list Hollywood guy? And I just don't think he has the talent for it. Not as an actor. We could see him produce some Academy Award-winning films in the future. I would watch him host Saturday Night Live. It's a lot like Justin Timberlake to me. I think Justin Timberlake is one of the most entertaining individuals I've ever seen, but I don't think he's a very good actor. But I think he's immensely entertaining. And I would watch, if they had an entire season of Saturday Night Live that Justin Timberlake hosted, I would watch. And I kind of get the feeling that an Ashton Kutcher, because he's got such a vivid personality, I think he'd be really good at that. But Just as an actor, as a performer, I don't see it. I never really have. I probably never will. So my answer to your question is, do I think he'll be a big prominent guy in Hollywood again? I'm going to guess no. Maybe he will. And maybe he can, shock us all. And that would be awesome if he did. But, just based on what I have in front of me right now, I'm going to guess no. All right. The next question today comes to us from Matt Santiago, who writes, "Hey guys, love the show. I have a question about marketing films. I've noticed that the marketing for Amazing Spider-Man 2 and The Edge of Tomorrow were terrible. My question is, what is the recipe to marketing a film perfectly? Examples would be nice too. Keep up the great work." Well, thanks a lot for the question, Matt. I'm going to disagree with you kind of with The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I don't think The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was marketed awful. As a matter of fact, I thought the trailers and all that kind of stuff for The Amazing Spider-Man 2 looked spectacular. They get it, spectacular Spider-Man pun, huh? Anyway, the marketing for The Amazing Spider-Man 2 really got me even more excited for the film because I'm a big fan of the first Amazing Spider-Man. I'm a big fan of the first one. And so I was already looking forward to the second one, but to me, the trailers took me over the edge. Now, the big problem with the marketing for Amazing Spider-Man 2 is as we got into about a month left before the movie, we started realizing we were just getting oversaturated with Amazing Spider-Man 2 marketing. It was too much. It was just too much. And there was, I believe, a lot of Spider-Man 2 fatigue coming before Spider-Man 2 even hit. But besides the oversaturation and the overstuffing of marketing for The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I actually thought the trailers and the marketing campaign were pretty good. It was just too much. With Edge of Tomorrow is a different story altogether. They didn't do too much marketing, but they made that movie look like a big piece of crap. The trailers for Edge of Tomorrow, it is the worst marketing campaign I've seen since John Carter. And the sad irony of both of these situations is both of those movies are really good. I really like John Carter as a pure sci-fi movie. I thought it was fun. I really liked it. But the trailers were terrible. And the title was terrible. With Edge of Tomorrow, I mean, you've heard me talk about this on the show before, so I don't want to get too into it. But just to recap, the trailer, the movie is amazing. It's fun, and it's funny, and it's exciting. And it's really an entertaining film. Trailers made to look like some sort of existential probe into the meaning of human existence. This is not the end. Live, die, repeat. Live, die, repeat. It just looked like a gloomy piece of trash. It looked like a bad version of Oblivion 2. And Oblivion ain't all that good to start with. The marketing looked, I would not be surprised at all to find out that the same company behind the trailers for Edge of Tomorrow is the same company behind the trailers for Oblivion. Just terrible. Terrible. And the worst sin about the marketing of Edge of Tomorrow is that it did not represent or convey the nature of the movie. Because the nature of the movie was fun and funny and exciting and entertaining. And the trailers communicated something completely different that made nobody want to go out and see it. And it's really unfortunate because, trust me, just take my word for it. I know there are lots of you that did not go to see Edge of Tomorrow. And by the way, they never should have changed the name from All You Need Is Kill. The name of the movie was All You Need Is Kill. Great, memorable, catchy title. And they changed it to Edge of Tomorrow, which sounds like a bad Australian soap opera. Not that Australian soap operas are bad. I'm just saying. But if you're one of those people who, like me, were completely turned off by the trailers for Edge of Tomorrow, bite the bullet. Take a risk. Go buy your ticket. Head on over. This is a good chance for me to do this. Plug. Head on over to www.amctheaters.com for all your theater, showtime, and movie ticket information. Head on over there. Just buy your tickets for Edge of Tomorrow and just go. Go see it. And then get on Twitter and tweet me at John Campia and say, John, thank you for convincing me to go see Edge of Tomorrow. Because forget the trailers, those pieces of trash. That company should be shut down, whoever they are. It's fun, it's funny, it's exciting, and it's entertaining, none of which were in the trailers. So what makes a good campaign? I think, well, let's just talk about trailers. I think highlight the strengths of your film, communicate adequately the nature and the tone of your movie, and show off your assets. So, I mean, if your strongest thing about your film is comedy, show us a couple of the best jokes. I know people get really mad when you show all the best jokes. Don't show all the best jokes, but show a couple of the real high quality jokes in your trailer. 22 Jump Street's doing that. And I guarantee they show some real funny stuff in their trailers. And yet the funniest stuff in the movies is not in the trailers. But if it's comedy, show some really good funny moments. Communicate, make sure that the tone of the trailer fits what the movie is, and then show off your assets. I mean, in the case of 22 Jump Street, you got Channing Tatum, Jonah Hill. Show off lots of Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill, because those are your big assets. To me, that is the recipe for a good marketing campaign. And that's why I think 22 Jump Street is succeeding. And then if you apply those rules to Edge of Tomorrow, they did none of it. Your biggest... The tone of the movie, fun, exciting, entertaining, funny. And the trailer communicates dark, morbid, introspective, contemplating human existence, the existential meaning of life. That's what the trailer's conveyed, but that ain't what the movie is at all. So you didn't show off your best assets, you didn't convey what the movie was, and you didn't use your strengths as a hook. It was a miserable, I could rant on this, how angry I am. And my anger about how bad the marketing for Edge of Tomorrow was only intensified when I saw how damn good this movie is. Tip your hat to Tom Cruise, Doug Liman, the whole crew of Edge of Tomorrow, because it's awesome. Awesome film. Go out and see it. All right, so we need a motor here because I'm running out of time, but we are now to our last question of the day. And the last question today will come to us from Peter Morehouse, who writes, "Hey guys, I love this show so much." Well, thanks, man. I really appreciate that. You recently answered a question about Ferrell and Carell, that's, Will Ferrell and Stephen Carell, hosting the Oscars. For those of you who don't know, on a recent AMC Movie Talk, we took a mailbag question saying, hey, what would you think about Will Ferrell and Stephen Carell hosting the Oscars together? And I thought it was a great idea. Anyway, you recently answered a question about Ferrell and Carell hosting the Oscars. It got me thinking that Foxcatcher, that's a new Stephen Carell movie coming out with Channing Tatum, is coming out, and at the end of the year, and Carell could be a candidate for a Best Actor or Best Supporting Actor Oscar nomination. My question is, has a host ever received an Oscar? And do you think it would be awkward? Thanks so much, and keep up what you're doing. Well, Peter, it has happened before. Now, I can't remember if any of them won, but it has happened where in a year you've had a host who was also nominated. Bob Hope. Bob Hope hosted this one year that he received an honorary Oscar, if I'm not mistaken, so that's a little bit different. He wasn't nominated. He was receiving an honorary Oscar. But just a couple of years ago, James Franco. James Franco was hosting the Oscars, and I know all of us like to try to forget that. But Franco was nominated for his incredible performance in 127 Hours, where he was nominated for Best Actor, and he was host of the show. I believe Michael Caine once hosted the Oscars in like 1977 or 76 or 75, somewhere in there. Michael Caine was one of the co-hosts of the Oscars, and he was nominated for an Academy Award as well. Now, and I believe it's happened 2 or 3 other times in history, but the most recent of which, I believe the 2 most recent of which is James Franco and Michael Caine. Now, some people may say, well, isn't that a conflict of interest? Well, no, remember, the people who are producing the show are completely separate from the body of people who are voting on the winners. Those are 2 totally different bodies of people. One has nothing to do with the other. It's not like the producer of the show, of the Oscars, the Academy Awards show, who picks the hosts and, runs that show, has anything to do with the voting process or the Academy as a whole, or who wins or who loses. There's a wall. There's a church and state thing there. They're completely separate, so there is no conflict of interest. Hence, James Franco didn't win. I'm sure there would have been a lot of conspiracy theorists if James Franco won, and people going, oh, that was fixed. No, they don't fix the Oscars. Too many people, it would be too hard to do. But anyway, so yes, it has happened. It could happen again. And I think you're right. If Carell and Ferrell were to magically host this year, which I don't think they are, but if they did, and I'd be all for it, And it is very likely that we could probably see another scenario where we have a host in Stephen Carell also being nominated for an Academy Award. In this case, would probably be Best Supporting Actor for Foxcatcher. So, has happened. And it will probably happen again sometime. Well, folks, that will do it for me. We've reached a half-hour mark. Thank you so much for joining me for AMC Mailbag today. Don't forget to come back and join us again tomorrow for Monday's installment of AMC Movie Talk. We're looking forward to seeing you there. I know Schnepp will be back, and I think Dennis will be on as well. Well, we'll see who's on tomorrow. Listen, as I brought up a little bit earlier, plug. Great movies, including 22 Jump Street, X-Men, Days of Future Past, How to Train Your Dragon. There's a lot of great movies playing in AMC theaters right now. Head on over to www.amc Theaters for all your theater, showtime, and movie ticket information. Listen, don't forget, if you haven't done so already, click on the subscribe button and become a subscriber to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. Keep you up to date on everything going on in the world of movie news. And, of course, our AMC Movie Talk Show, AMC Versus, AMC Spoilers, AMC Coming Soon, AMC Mailbag, lots of great stuff. Make sure you subscribe and click the thumbs up button as well. It's just a great way to tell us and tell everybody else that you actually like the shows that we're putting together. If you want an audio-only version of this episode, look in the description of this video and you'll find links to our iTunes so you can subscribe to our podcast and listen to us on the way to work. Lots of great stuff. So, folks, that'll do it for me. My name's John Campia for AMC Movie News. Thanks a lot for joining me this weekend, and until next time, bye-bye.